Welcome to Inspire Change, a new inspirational and motivational broadcast that strives to empower men in a positive way. The entire series will consist of only 5 minutes. Yes, 5 minutes, as they are designed to educate, empower, and inspire even the busiest individual on the go over that first cup of coffee. Please join me in welcoming Gunter Swoboda, international psychologist, author, speaker, and producer, as he starts off the series with his first topic, Deconstructing Patriarchy. It is men's business.
Thanks for having me on the program. I really appreciate it. So one of the significant issues we're grappling with in our society today is that of domestic violence. I'm presenting a paper at the Stop Domestic Violence conference on the 9th of December on the Gold Coast in Australia. Now, despite persistent efforts to reduce the horrendous toll on women and children, we're not appearing to make a lot of headway. My presentation to the conference is titled Deconstructing Patriarchy, It's Men's Business. And I'll explain why. In an opinion piece called There Are Ways to Reduce Domestic Violence That Has Nothing to Do with Patriarchy, published in The Guardian, Gay Alcorn reviews Jess Hill's position in a book, See What You Made Me Do. Hill proposes that domestic violence needs to be better understood from the perspective of psychopathology rather than the feminist approach, which focuses on power relationships and gender inequality. Now, they may in the long term address the issue of why men abuse, but it's not enough to address the immediate problem. She argues it's more important to ask the question, why did this man abuse his wife? Hill argues that it's the feminist position that's dominant in the political arena. And she goes on to propose that we would do much better if we came at it from the psychopathology model. This model suggests that domestic violence is rooted in mental illness, substance abuse, and childhood trauma. Now, this raises the question of what causes mental illness, substance abuse, and childhood trauma. In my presentation, however, I put another position forward. If we continue to promote an either-or position, that is, it is either the feminist argument that drives policy and interventions, or on the other hand, the psychopathology model, then we're going to remain bogged down. My position is that we need to understand the relationship between patriarchy and how it impacts on the socialisation of boys and men to understand the emergence of psychological disorders such as childhood trauma, substance abuse and violence. My model is about understanding domestic violence from a relational perspective. That is, we need to know how the two interrelate. Through my work with boys and men over 30 years, it is clear to me that patriarchy creates fertile ground for severe psychological and social dysfunction, especially trauma and domestic violence. Hill is right when she says that when men feel powerless and ashamed, it is their entitlement to power that fuels the humiliated fury and drives them to commit twisted, violent acts. In that one statement, she demonstrates the relationship between an individual psychological dynamic, its impact on the intimate relationship, and their relationship to patriarchy. Despite decades of social change, the path of gender equity has been slow and is again being assailed by political and religious groups. We continue to be at risk of heading towards Gilead. We continue to be fundamentally a patriarchal society, which indoctrinates boys and men with a toxic ideal. But when I hear toxic masculinity, I get irritated. Masculinity is not toxic, patriarchy is. When men shed the values and consequences of patriarchy, they have an opportunity to heal the wounds that patriarchy inflicts on boys and men daily. We learn to be more in touch with our inner world, our needs and our emotions. We learn how to deal with them in a healthy way. We begin to engage with empathy, and we do not see this as a weakness that we need to disown. Patriarchy presents boys and men with an ideal that is both impossible to live up to and is entirely dysfunctional and will inevitably lead to a life of pain and disillusionment. Patriarchy does not allow us to be the men we can be, so our pain turns to rage, which we take out on others and all too often ourselves. It's in that context that deconstructing patriarchy is truly men's business, a business we need to own to heal. Individually, we need to take the journey, and socially, we need to influence and represent an example of how to be men that have lived outside the chains of patriarchy. In my presentation, I'm going to clearly demonstrate how the feminist model and psychopathology is really connected. Now, in my next episode, I'm going to talk about the core values of a non-patriarchal masculinity. Look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you, Gunter, and thank you to our listeners in our first super short broadcast series, Inspired Change with Gunter Swoboda. Please join us every Wednesday for a new broadcast by visiting www.spreaker.com/show/inspire-change, which will feature all the ways you can listen. If you have comments or suggestions, email producer@studio3hollywood.net. Thank you and have an inspiring day.